Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind, these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, so here we have to market close on Tuesday, December 14th. We're going to take a look at the indices today by way of some ETFs to sort of get a sense of where the ETFs are and sort of translate that over to the market as a whole. I know that there's like a ton of different indexes that folks follow in order to get a sense of like where the market is or where certain sectors are. I had to choose something, so I'm choosing SPY, QQQ, UDOW, and UVXY. We can do others down the line, but these I thought would be good for today. So SPY, I've already done the charts on these, so I'll just sort of go through them, and they're all on the daily chart. So SPY, I'm looking at this uptrend support that's been holding since at least October of this year. I don't know if that is like the bottom bound of a channel that stretches back quite a bit further. But the near end support and resistance as I see it on the top side resistance 465.62 would be what I would look for it to flip from resistance to support if it wants to make another run at this red box, which is about like 470 all the way up to 472. Actually it starts like mid 469s, so all the way up into mid to high 472s. If it can get support over this box, like 473 support, right? This was just like a wick shot. That's certainly not flipping it to support. If it can get support there, then it could sort of open the door for a potential run higher. To the downside, 459.13. If it needs support, 453.85 below that, but in the interim, depending on when it would reach it, it would hit this uptrend support. Now, if it loses this uptrend support, I would be pretty concerned about that and about a larger fall coming. There is the 180 MA, but that's way down here at 437. So hopefully we don't need that to come in. There's a level here around 447 that I'd look at if it loses these, but we're in a whole different situation if that ends up to be the case. QQQ, so what I'm looking at here is 393.46 to flip that from resistance to support for the short-term sort of potential to run up. And it is in this long-term channel, and it's sort of mid-channel at the moment. So there is always the bottom bound of the channel. If it did want to come down to touch that in several of these downturns, that's where it's bounced. You see the three most recent downturns. So this has sort of like been head faking several times. So I don't know if it's gonna try to turn down all the way down to here, but if it did, it would probably hit it somewhere between like 370 and 375, depending on when it made its way down, of course. But in the meantime, it would, to my mind, hit this 382 and 378 levels that could provide support if it needs it. And in between here is a little bit rocky. I mean, this is kind of an area. It's 388, but that's like right where it is at the moment. So I didn't want to put that on and just sort of like clog up the chart. But that's what I look for in the QQQ. On the UDOW, for the Dow, looking at this one is like definitely kind of rockier, choppier in my mind, and the 180 had been holding for a while, right? It's like even way back here, sort of helped scooped in and swoop it up, and then held here on this dip back in September and October, but it lost it here in November, December dip as of late. So that's of note, I think. And then to the downside on this one, I'd look at this 78.23 as initial sort of support. I think this is 80.40 to the upside to flip from resistance to support in order to try to make open the possibility for a run at 81.79. And if it loses these support levels, 75.54 would be the downside that I would see at the moment. Then potentially this 180, depending on where that is at that time. And if it loses that, then we can of course come back and rechart. So those are all sort of those ETFs. Now, UVXY, the fear index, this is a little bit trickier because it's a long-term downtrend, of course, but this is what I'm looking at. So you see this like scooping action that we see right here. This is like if you had like some scooping like this in a stock, you'd think, okay, there could be some bullish momentum building here. So that's to say, like, if UVXY continues to creep up or starts to really sort of take off, then watch out, because those other three that we just looked at are probably coming down quite quickly. So this one I would keep a look at. If it's able to come down toward 1487, that would sort of like give some breathing room probably to the market as a whole, peel back some of the fear and allow some of the bullish pressure to come back in. If it breaches this 17, I think this is 1717 level, then and it flips that from resistance to support, then I'd be pretty cautious, because that there's like kind of relatively choppy motion here, and that could certainly unlock the possibility of a run to 20, which if it gets up to 20, like I said, those ETFs and the major indices are going to be coming down quite a bit, probably, if the fear index rises that high. But that's what I look for in the near term. But it did have this, I didn't put this in, but can sort of point it out. There is this like downtrend resistance that was happening just for a few days, and it broke that, right? So now it's kind of like on the rise again. What I look for in the very, very near term would be for it to come back down to try to press into that as almost like downtrend support. But if it continues to leave it, then it could have done, like I said, what you'd look for a stock to do in a very bullish scenario. But in this case, it's sort of acting as the opposite. So that's sort of like the situation as I see it for at least these 4 charts at the moment. Good luck out there. It's certainly choppy days. I know my accounts have been sort of like up and down and like intraday, and then like predominantly like losing a little bit, but keeping those losses relatively small for the time being. So hopefully I can continue to manage it that way. But it feels like a lot of activity and a lot of management for a red day, for your account to be red, but then also just be like mostly flat but slightly red. It's like, wow, this is a lot of effort to get a flat, slightly red day in my account. But these are those challenging type times, and it's a good skill to build, to be honest, because when there are these sort of turns in the market, or if there is a turn coming in the market, I don't know, controlling those losses during that time, whether you just sit on the sidelines in cash, or if you're able to trade like UVXY or SQQ or something like that, in order to profit from those downturns, that will service you well, certainly in the long run. All right, folks, I hope your trading week is going well, and I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next video.